In 1805, Tom Otter was held in custody. He'd been accused by Mary Kirkham, a local lass from North Hykeham, as being the father of her unborn child. In November of 1805, Tom and Mary found themselves standing by the altar of the Church of St Michael and All Angels in South Hykeham. They were accompanied by 2 constables. Otter gave his surname as Temple, a derivative of his mother's maiden name, Temporal, as Otter already had a wife and child in Nottinghamshire. His marriage to Mary was bigamous, but he had declared his status on the marriage licence as that of a widower. The couple left the church to walk to Lincoln, and at about 5 p.m. was seen at the Brayford near Lucy Tower Lane by numerous witnesses. Mary was described by witnesses as being heavily pregnant. She believed herself to be 2 or 3 weeks from delivery. She was wearing a faded light blue checked gown and carrying a small blue oval paper box. Otter was fair and wore a light drab-coloured jacket and trousers. He was carrying a bundle. Mary's Patton's protective overshoes, and according to one witness, had a banker's casting tool under his arm. They were last seen near Saxelby Bridge, heading towards Drinsey Nook, about 7 p.m. that evening. The following morning, between 9 and 10, a local farmer and a young boy found a lady's slipper in the middle of the lane, and 4 yards away, lying in a ditch, was Mary's body. She had severe head injuries, and it was apparent she had been murdered, and the arrangement of her clothes and the marks on the road indicated her body had been dragged to the ditch. Her body was taken by cart to the Sun Inn at Saxelby for inquest, and the county coroner was sent for. One of the constables of Lincoln, one Francis Claytor, accompanied Dr. Drury, the coroner, to Saxelby to view the body and recognised it as the young woman he had accompanied to her wedding. 2 constables arrived at Otter's lodgings, the Black Swan Inn, but he had already left. They found Otter at a house near St Mark's Church. He did not resist arrest and claimed he was as innocent as the child unborn, but, still wearing the clothes he had been married in, blood specks were observed on the back of his jacket. Otter claimed Mary had travelled from Lincoln alone to stay with relatives in Thorney, 3.5 miles southwest of Saxelby. However, several witnesses came forward to claim they had seen the couple together on the road to Saxelby. The day after the body was found, the coroner's jury met at the Sun Inn, Saxelby, to examine Mary's body. Otter was brought to view Mary. He appeared unmoved. He identified Mary by her dress. He claimed to have never seen the murder weapon before, but the jury believed Otter was guilty and gave a verdict of wilful murder against him. Mary and her unborn child were buried later that day. Otter was examined before the magistrates at County Hall, now Lincoln Crown Court within Lincoln Castle. He claimed to have parted from his wife at 5 p.m. and was back in the kitchen at the Black Swan Inn for 8 p.m. Many witnesses testified against him. On changing his clothes for a prison uniform, the blood flecks were noted once more, although he had made some attempt to scratch them out. Otter spent his time awaiting trial in His Majesty's Jail, the Castle of Lincoln. He stood accused of the murder of Mary Kirkham, pleaded not guilty and challenged the accusation, claiming he could not be tried in Lincoln as the murder took place in the county of Nottinghamshire. This was disproved, and after a trial lasting just 5 hours, and based on circumstantial evidence, he was found guilty, sentenced to hang, and his body ordered for dissection. On the morning of his execution, Friday the 14th of March 1806, this order was changed. His corpse was to be hung in chains or gibbet. At 11 a.m, Otter was taken from the castle to the gallows near to where is now the Strugglers pub, where he made a full confession, and at 12 p.m. his life was extinguished. Otter's body was covered in pitch to delay decomposition, sewn into a canvas bag and placed within the gibbet on the 20th of March 1806. As gibbeting was quite unusual, multitudes of people attended, not only on this day but for weeks after, and booths were erected so that eyewitnesses described the scene as such like a fair. The location of a gibbet was decided during sentencing, and where possible gibbets were placed at or as close to the scene of the crime as possible. In Otter's case, this was 100 yards from the spot where Mary's body was found, on the lane leading from Drinsey Nook to Doddington. Gibbets could remain in place for years. The cage would sway and rattle in the wind, the smell would be potent, and those living nearby often complained. It was reported that when Otter's body had been exposed for a year or two, a blue tit built a nest in his decaying jawbone. 9 eggs hatched, giving rise to the following riddle. There were 10 tongues, all in one head. The 10th went out to seek for bread, to feed the living in the dead. During the severe storms of February 1850, 44 years after Otter's execution, the gibbet came down. The stake with which Tom Otter killed Mary was kept for many years. Every year on the night that the murder took place, it was reported that the stake would be removed from wherever it was being kept. Many attempts were made to secure it using iron hoops or staples, but nothing was found that could hold it. The following morning, it would be found in the spot where the murder took place. No one knew what or who was moving the stake, and it was eventually burned by the Bishop of Lincoln in the yard outside the cathedral. Thomas Otter was the last man to be gibbeted in Lincolnshire, and his notoriety lives on in the names of places near where his gibbet was placed. Today, the B1190 is known as Tom Otter's Lane, with Tom Otter's Bridge, Gibbet Farm and Gibbet Wood also close by.